I'm back today at the Colorado Supreme Court Court of Appeals, this time for the Sheriff John Feyen lawsuit. The opening brief in the John Feyen case is a simple formality because the Court of Appeals doesn't actually have jurisdiction over the Feyen case yet because District Court Judge Gregory Lammons refuses to rule on a motion. Until he rules on that motion, the Court of Appeals doesn't have jurisdiction. But oftentimes, in a dirty jurisdiction like the 8th Judicial District, it takes higher courts to force the judges to rule according to the law. So that's what we're doing. And it's interesting because we mentioned in a different video that David Vandenberg was one of John Feyen's early attorneys before they figured out that this was a serious case. Anyway, David Vandenberg and Chief Judge Susan Blanco find themselves in this opening brief for against John Feyen because Susan Blanco is the chief judge in Larimer County, Fort Collins, and beyond. Actually, well, I'll read it to you so you can hear the exact words that the Court of Appeals issued against Chief Judge Susan Blanco. This is directly from the brief, and I'll post the entire opening brief in the comments if you want to read the full thing. In fact, Chief Judge Susan Blanco did it herself in 2020. In that case, 20 CA 1116, People v. Pennington, the Court of Appeals concluded in the summary dated January 28, 2021 that, quote, the district court infringed on the separation of powers doctrine when it sua sponte amended the defendant's criminal charge. What that means is Judge Susan Blanco just made up her own law. On the fly, she decided to take the law into her own hands. And ironically, at the time she did this, David Vandenberg was a deputy district attorney. Some of the issues that you will read about in the case against Sheriff John Feyen include the fact that his attorneys violated many of their own professional conduct standards, violated ethics, broke the law. Michael Milstein was removed from the case because of his extreme violations. Now, when I say he was removed, his own firm removed him so that other attorneys had to handle the case. You'll learn about what happened to the case files in the Justin Smith case and the John Feyen case. Both case files at critical points throughout these lawsuits became scrambled, and you can learn more about that if you read the opening brief. Additionally, after District Court Judge Joseph Finley bailed from the case without reason, District Court Judge Gregory Lammons was assigned. And right about the same time, I learned that even though Lammons had a bio up on the state website, a judge bio, for many years, the bio disappeared, and he or the Chief Judge Susan Blanco lied to judicial administration about it. They said that he had never had such a presence on social media, when in fact I could prove that he did. And so that's another part of this opening brief. Again, this opening brief is a formality. The Court of Appeals doesn't actually have jurisdiction because District Court Judge Gregory Lammons refuses to rule on a motion. If he ever does rule on that motion, it will be because the Court of Appeals forces him to do so. The Court of Appeals has the authority and the duty to force District Court Judge Gregory Lammons to follow the law, to obey the law. What a concept.